Big banks have announced they'll soon introduce or raise fees on their checking accounts, and many local banks are following suit. For advice on fighting those fees, we're talking to Liz Weston, author of the new book, The 10 Commandments of Money. Liz, thanks for being here.
It's great to be here, Jack.
So, free checking is something we've all taken for granted, but now it's going away?
Yeah, I think for a lot of banks, they're just looking for ways to replace the revenue they lost when they had to change their policies on bounce fees. It used to be they would sign you up on the sly for this service and then charge you like crazy if you happened to overdraw. And a lot of people decided when it was made mandatory that they, have to opt in or not get the service, a lot of people just decided, forget it, I'm not going to do it. So banks are trying to replace that income, and one of the ways they're doing it is with a lot of new checking account fees.
So one way to avoid that is an online bank. You're a big fan.
I really am, because online banks tend to have no fees, no minimums, and they really don't ding you the same way that brick and mortar banks do. Now you have to be careful. You have to look at what they're offering and whether you can access your money conveniently, whether they compensate you for ATM fees, that kind of thing. But it's a good way to get your money and get access to your money without paying a ton of fees.
You hit a key point there, though. I mean, if you get charged $2.50 every time you want to get some money out of an ATM, that's tough. Can you avoid that?
Well, you can. A lot of the banks will compensate you or put money back into your account to cover a certain number of ATM fees a month. Also, a lot of these accounts were set up originally just as savings accounts, so you want to make sure that you've got a bank that will compensate you for the ATM fees if you're going to use an ATM.
Now also, there's something a little scary about not being able to see that beautiful bank with the pillars and the safe deposit box. How do people know it's not a scam? How do you choose an online bank?
Well, there's some well-known ones, and if you start, doing your Google search and talking to your friends to see who they use, you'll find those folks. And they are FDI-insured banks, just like the brick-and-mortar banks. You want to make absolutely sure you've got that FDIC seal of approval if you're going with an online bank.
Now, for those who just say, I'm sorry, Liz, I got to have the bricks and mortars, you do recommend credit unions.
Yeah, almost everyone can join one. And what a credit union is a member-owned organization. So it's not a bank that has to please a bunch of shareholders. This is an organization, a financial group that's owned by its members, including you, if you happen to be a member. So there may be a small sign-up fee, maybe $5, but after that you're going to find a very nice situation. They typically charge less in fees, and they typically have better interest rates than brick-and-mortar banks.
And you don't have to be a veteran or a member of a union or something like that?
Well, different credit unions are set up differently, but you can, it can be as narrow as having to belong to a certain church, or it can be as broad as living in a certain area. There's a LA credit union called Westcom that if you live, work, or go to school in LA, you can belong to that. And the same thing is true of New York and every other state. There are very broad-based credit union organizations. So what you need to do is try findacreditunion.com and see if there is one near you. It probably will be. There'll probably be several of them that you can choose from.
Wow. So maybe if enough people join, banks will start cutting fees again.
Well, that would be nice if the competition got them to do that. The other thing you can think about is if you really like your bank, see if you can change your behavior to avoid the fees. If you keep enough money there, or if you do all your banking through ATMs, you may not have to ever deal with a teller, and you might be able to avoid a lot of fees.
Wow. Thanks very much for joining us, Liz.
Thank you, Jack.
And thank you for watching.